Hey everyone. All right, my name is Kevin Loaec. I'm here to talk to you about Bitcoin vaults. You may or may not know what a Bitcoin vault is, and by the end of this presentation, I really hope you will know why so many people are actually excited about it. It's one of these pretty technical things. Guys, the video is off. I lost the slides. There is no slides. Anyways, so yes, talking about Bitcoin vaults. Bitcoin vaults are like a subject that's been researched on Bitcoin for quite a long time. But yeah, it's just, we never had Bitcoin vaults before. Like no implementation exists today on Bitcoin. And so I'm going to try to explain why this is so important and why you should care about it and be excited about it. But that'd be better if I had slides, hopefully at some point. Yes. But anyway, how is everyone doing? Good? Okay, cool. Anyone using like multisig here? Few people? Cool. Nice. Anyone using a third-party custodian here? Right, nobody. Cool. Good job, guys. No, I'm going to talk about all of that and explain you why we have different security levels in Bitcoin. I'm also going to talk about key management and what we might be able to do in the future to improve that. If I have slides. I don't. Yeah, I can go for it, but I don't have many slides, but still it's better to have like a thing in the back. My personal story, that's a good question. I've been in Bitcoin since 2013. I actually ended up in there. I was working on a payment device. NFC, contactless payment, and built a prototype. And then I was like, hey, I need to raise some money to actually make a business out of it. And potential investors just told me, hey, but you kind of need, a payment service provider license for that. And I was like, what is a payment service provider license? Like, what is this license thing? And so I learned about central banking and all the authorization you needed if you wanted to play with money as a small startup. And yeah, basically that completely killed the idea. I was like, I'm just one guy. I don't have like 100K to spend on lawyers and 6 months to just deal with the regulator and maybe be approved on like doing something. And so another startup actually reached out to me and they were like, hey, do you know about Bitcoin? And this is back, but I'm going to finish this. And so, yeah, that's how I ended up in Bitcoin. I didn't know there was such a money that didn't care about regulation. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. So yeah, ended up in Bitcoin because of the regulatory bullshit of central banks. And I've been in it since then, working on actual Bitcoin, not just devices or stuff, but now I'm really into Bitcoin security, protocol level stuff. So yeah. All right. Oh, I have one slide. OK. So it's half working. So I can continue then. And then, yeah, so I started working on hardware wallets. But that was a pretty bad idea in 2013. It was way too early. The market wasn't really there. So yeah, burned quite a bit of money on that. Instead of just buying Bitcoin and holding, try to do a startup, which is never the best of ideas in this space, will never go up. And so, yes-ish, yes. Yes. No. Nope. Oops. Yep. I think it works now, unless it's you. Cool. Yes, great. Thanks for your patience, guys. So yeah, I'm here to talk about Bitcoin vaults. You might have heard of the term vault before in Bitcoin, but sadly, that's usually from this. A lot of wallet providers that are doing multi-sig now are calling their stuff vaults. I mean, it's quite sad because the vault concept is a very specific technical concept in Bitcoin, and it's been researched for many years. There is a lot of academic paper and technical papers on this. And so, yeah, I'm kind of here to tell you that a multi-sig wallet is not a vault, no matter what they say. So hopefully they will change this naming, and we can keep, calling vaults vaults and multi-sig multi-sig. What is a Bitcoin vault then, Kevin? Well, here is a Bitcoin vault definition I put together, and this one applies to pretty much every single vault architecture that's been researched and proposed on Bitcoin before. What this means, a Bitcoin staged transaction process allowing to prevent the movement of funds, is that we can actually apply some policies on Bitcoin to prevent them from moving to, let's say, an unknown address outside of your wallet. Or we can say a person cannot spend more than 10 Bitcoin per day. Otherwise, we're actually going to prevent the movement of this transaction. The way we do that is actually by pushing multiple transactions on-chain in a specific order. So it's actually enforced at the blockchain layer. And so, yeah, it's a completely trustless process. It's super interesting because in terms of security, it's just the next step we need to have. Key management is great, but it's just not enough, especially when you're talking about institutional Bitcoin, where you have the Bitcoin that the company owns is not owned by a specific individual, but maybe can be moved by a specific individual, like the CFO or the people in charge of the payment. And you really don't want them to be just in one click spending all of your Bitcoin or making a mistake and burning them or something like that. So that's why vaults are actually a big deal. We also use the term vaults for the actual Bitcoin being protected by such a process. So we talk about the process of securing them, but we also talk about the Bitcoin protected by a vault process being like in a vault. But once again, that's not a multi-sig. This is completely different. So why do we do vaults? Well, just going back into the security model of Bitcoin today, the security of your Bitcoin today is only the security of your keys. So put your keys on a hardware wallet. Great, that's already better. But what do you do with your backups? If someone gets access to your backup, they can move your funds. There is different attacks possible, of course, like getting access to the key itself. But you can also go further, and someone could just tamper with your hardware wallet and maybe make it sign a transaction. So just getting a valid signature might be enough to steal some of your Bitcoin, even without being able to extract private keys. So there is a lot of attacks possible on the key management system. And so when we're talking about large institutions buying Bitcoin now, number going up, and a lot of people making money, having all of your money just within one secret might not be the best of ideas. So how do we mitigate that? Well, multi-signature. So instead of having just one key that protects your coin, you're separating the secrets into multiple locations. Well, you should. So multi-signature is not secure by itself. When you're using a multi-signature, you should put the keys in different locations. You should also separate the backups, because if you put let's say you have 3 keys, if you put your 3 mnemonic in the same place, in the same location for your backup, well, somebody accessing that can steal your keys. So multi-signature is not a secure thing by itself. It's just a process where you should be going to multiple locations with different hardware wallets from different brands, just so you protect yourself from the different targeted attack on one of your keys. But that's still not enough, especially on the business side of things. So you might have heard of that, like the cold storage and the hot wallets. It's some kind of a trade-off because multi-signature wallets are actually themselves a trade-off between security and usability. So of course, if you have like a 5 out of 5 multi-signature and you need 5 keys to spend your Bitcoin all the time, and the 5 keys are in 5 geographical locations, spending your Bitcoin becomes a pain in the ass. And so if you need to move them every day, well, probably you're just going to end up putting them all in the same room, and that defeats the purpose of a multisig. So instead of that, businesses, like if you look at exchanges and all that stuff, are using the cold wallet model, where you would move your funds very rarely from this wallet, where most of your money would be. And that would be a large multi-sig with a different location, maybe different people. And then you have this smaller wallet that people can access on a daily basis and do all of their transactions from. But typically, that's just one key or maybe 2 out of 3. But the security is much, much lower on that. So it's a trade-off between, OK, we might be OK to lose some of the money in the hot wallet, but at least we can live with it, because otherwise it's just impossible to deal with business in a large multisig setup. So to improve that, what can we do? And why do we still have this kind of crappy security model so far? It's because in Bitcoin, we have quite a limited script capability. We can't do everything we want. It's not a general purpose thing. So what we can do is to play with secrets. So that's what I was calling private keys until now. But you can do a lot of other restrictions on Bitcoin with hash locks and things like that. MPC, whatever. There is a lot of things you can play with secrets, but that's still key management. You can also have time locks. So time locks are restrictions on Bitcoin transaction that you can say, the funds cannot move before a specific date in time, for example. So you can do that already on your addresses. You can also have time locks that are what we call relative time locks, so they start triggering after you receive the money, or after you move the money. But there is one thing that doesn't exist on Bitcoin today, and that's what we call covenants. And that's how to restrict at the Bitcoin layer itself, at the Bitcoin consensus itself, how the funds can move. So let's say creating an address that says, from this address, the funds can only move to my, I don't know, Kraken deposit address. They cannot go anywhere else. This doesn't exist on Bitcoin. It requires a change to the protocol, so it's not happening anytime soon. What vaults actually do is this. They allow you to restrict how funds can move without requiring a covenant. We're using some security tricks to make that work, but it's basically the same end goal. Just to let you know that, of course, Revolt, I'm speaking here on behalf of Revolt. Revolt is a vault architecture, as you might have guessed. But Revolt is not the first. It's just going to be the first that is actually practical and people can use on Bitcoin. There have been a lot of proposals so far, some of them requiring covenants to be added to the Bitcoin protocol, some of them using other trade-offs, like deleting private keys. But as you may guess, if you are technical, deleting a private key might not be the best idea if anything goes wrong, because then you burn your funds, basically. So yeah, a lot of people have proposed things. There is at least like 10 different proposals. The biggest one so far, I think, was the one from Fidelity Investments that published a multi-party solution of vaults using the deleted private key setup. But as far as I know, it's never going to go to production because deleted private keys are impossible to prove you deleted the private key. And on top of that, if you actually did and anything go wrong, you're burning funds, and you don't want to do that. And so I have no idea how much time I have left. So Revolt, my company, is actually pushing forward the first practical solution for that. I'm not going to go into the technical details. I don't think I should be too technical here. But Revolt basically lets you define these payment policies, these spending policies, and also lets you delegate some of your funds to either like specific employees or a group of employees within an organization. All of that without third parties, without trusted third party. If you want to use a trusted third party, you can, but Revolt itself, like even us as a company, we don't have anything to do with the security model. We don't have anything to do with like selling you stuff. It's free open source software. So yeah, it's a great stuff, and it's a protocol that hopefully everyone will use in the future on top of Bitcoin, especially institutions. Right now, the security model we design is targeted at institutional Bitcoin. We might, in the future, adapt it for single users. But yeah, right now what we do is that. If you want to learn more about how it works, you can check it out on GitHub. Everything is open source anyway. You can try it on your computer if you are technical. We are also sometimes in the open source dome there, so you can check it live. We can show you a demo. And yeah, I think that's pretty much my talk. And I'm putting that back because I think this is the important thing. I have no idea if I have time for questions or stuff. One question, OK. Make it good. I think the mic here is the mic for question, or this one. So anyone has any question? Technical, non-technical? Should you buy Bitcoin now or not?
I know this is, I just wanted to ask, I'm with Unchained Capital, so I didn't know what the difference was.
So, sorry, what's the last part of the question?
Difference with Revolt, and are there any similarities, or are they different?
OK. Unchained and BitGo and every kind of these things so far, they're all multi-signature things. So they're just holding a key or MPCs, any kind of secret. But it's at the secret base. So it's like who can spend the funds. Once you have access to that, there is no restriction whatsoever on how the funds can move. So if they apply any form of policy, it's just a policy from the server side. You trust them to actually apply the policy. Yet there is no form of enforcement whatsoever. Revolt is something that plugs on top of that, actually. And so you can actually make sure that the enforcement can be applied. So you as a customer of Unchained or BitGo or whatever can actually run what we call a watchtower that is going to look at the blockchain and enforce this policy in case anything goes out and shouldn't go out. So yeah, we're not trying to replace third-party custodians. We make them not necessary, depending on your choice. You may use one, you don't have to use one. But Revolt plugs on top of that and add new capability, which is this spending policy and delegation. So yeah, we're just improving security for everyone there. I think that's it. Thanks, guys.